Hello dear students, myself Niyati Thakur. Today we are going to study in detail about CPCSCA guidelines for laboratory animal facility. Let us understand the guidelines for veterinary care. The guidelines state adequate veterinary care must be provided in the animal house and it is the responsibility of veterinary person or a person who has training or experience in laboratory animal sciences and medicine. The veterinary person help in the establishment and designing appropriate policies and procedures for ancillary aspects of veterinary care. These aspects include use of appropriate method to prevent and control diseases like vaccination and other prophylaxis, disease monitoring and surveillance, quarantine and isolation of animals, operative and post-operative care, diagnosis and treatment of diseases as well as injuries, reviewing the protocols and proposals, animal husbandry and animal welfare, monitoring occupational health hazard containment, zoonosis control programs, and supervising animal nutrition and sanitation. Daily observation of animals can be accomplished by someone other than a veterinary person. However, mechanism of direct and frequent communication so that timely and accurate information on problems in animal health, behavior and well-being is conveyed to the attending veterinary person. Institutional requirement will determine the full time or part-time need or consultative veterinary services. All animals like cattle, buffalo, sheep, goats, pig, equine must be acquired lawfully as per CPCSCA guidelines. Small animals and dogs can be procured from registered breeders. Large animals can be procured from farmers or as per guidance of Wildlife Department as is done in case of macaques. Cats can be bred for their use. Rodents can be imported from abroad after necessary license from Director General of Foreign Trade is obtained for import. A health surveillance program for screening of incoming animals should be carried out before purchase to assess animal quality. Methods of transportation should also be taken into account. Each consignment of animal should be inspected for compliance with procurement specifications and the animals should be quarantined and stabilized according to procedures appropriate for the species and circumstances. Now this is Annexure 4 which specifies animal procurement procedures. So different animals will have different transport facilities or specifications and the material used in transport box will also be different. The next is guideline for quarantine, stabilization and separation. Quarantine is the separation of newly received animals from those already in the facility until the health and possibly the microbial status of newly received animals have been determined. The guideline says that there should be effective quarantine procedure that minimize the chance for introduction of pathogens into an established colony. The duration at quarantine in small lab animals is from 1 week to 1 month, and for large animals it is up to 6 weeks. However, the duration of quarantine can be increased depending on the type of infection, suspected infection noticed in the animals. Effective quarantine procedures should be used for non-human primates to help limit exposure of humans to zoonotic infections. The period varies from 2 to 3 months depending on the reaction of TB testing. Any macaque found positive for TB for at least 2 times and shows signs of weight loss or ill health should be euthanized, as is practiced internationally to prevent spreading of TB to workers and other macaques. Regardless of duration of quarantine, newly received animals should be given a period for physiologic, psychologic, and nutritional stabilization before their use. The length of time of stabilization will depend upon the type and duration of animal transportation, the species involved, and the intended use of the animals. Physical separation of animals by species is recommended to prevent interspecies disease transmission and to eliminate anxiety and possible physiological and behavioral changes due to interspecies conflict. Such separation is usually accomplished by housing different species in separate rooms. However, cubicles, laminar air flow units, cages that have filtered air or separate ventilation, and isolators can be suitable alternatives. In some instances, it shall be acceptable to house different species in the same room. For example, if 2 species have a similar pathogenic status and are behaviorally compatible. Separate set of personnel should be identified for taking care of this infected or sick animals, and other workers should be restricted from entering into the facility unless otherwise required, and after handling these animals, they should not be handling any other animals in the facilities. Guidelines for surveillance, diagnosis, treatment and control of disease. All animals should be observed for sign of illness, injury or abnormal behavior by animal house staff. As a rule, this should occur daily, but more frequent observations might be warranted, such as during post-operative recovery or when animals are ill or have a physical deficit. It is imperative that appropriate methods are at place for disease surveillance and diagnosis. This is Annexure 1 that gives hematological data of common laboratory animal to identify whether they are sick or healthy. Annexure 2 resemble biochemical data of common laboratory animal to identify the status of their health. Post-mortem examination and signs of illness, distress or other deviation from normal health condition in animal should be reported promptly to ensure appropriate and timely delivery of veterinary medical care. Animals that show sign of contagious diseases should be isolated from healthy animals in the colony. If an entire room of animal is known to believed or to be exposed to an infectious agent like Mycobacterium tuberculosis in non-human primates, the group should be kept intact and isolated during the process of diagnosis, treatment and control. Animals suffering from contagious diseases like TB must be euthanized to prevent its spread to other animals and often animal handlers. The isolation, quarantine and stabilization programs for newly arrived animals are necessary to provide time to assess their health status. It also allows them to recover from the stress of shipment and an opportunity to adjust or adapt to the new environment. The extent of this program depend on several factors including species and source of animals as well as their intended use. For some animals such as rodents obtained from reliable sources for which health status is known, visual inspection on arrival may suffice. For species such as non-human primates, farm animals, wild animals, dogs, cats, and non-specific pathogen-free rabbits and rodents, appropriate quarantine and isolation procedures may be employed. Preventive medicine programs such as vaccination, ecto and endoparasite treatment, and other disease control measures should be initiated according to currently acceptable veterinary medical practices appropriate to the particular species and source. Only animals of defined health status should be used in research and testing unless a specific naturally occurring or induced disease state is being studied. Systems should be established to protect animals within the institution from exposure to diseases. Transgenic and mutant animals may be particularly susceptible to diseases and may require special protection to ensure their health. Systems to prevent spread of disease may include facility design features, containment, isolation equipment, and use of standard operating procedures. Training of animal care and research staff is essential to prevent spread of animals and diseases. Disease surveillance is major responsibility of a veterinary person and should include routine monitoring of colony of animals for the presence of parasitic and microbiological agent that may cause overt or unapparent disease. Additionally, cells, tissue, fluids and transplantable tumors that are to be used in animals should be monitored for infectious or parasitic agent that may cause diseases in animals. The type and intensity of monitoring necessarily will depend upon professional veterinary judgment and the species, source, use and number of animals housed and use in the facility. Diagnostic laboratory services must be available and used as appropriate. Laboratory services should include necropsy, histopathology, microbiology, clinical pathology, serology, and parasitology, as well as other routine or specialized laboratory procedures as needed. Animals with infectious, contagious diseases must be isolated from others by placing them in isolation units or separate rooms appropriate for the containment of the agents of concern. In certain circumstances, when an entire group of animals is known or suspected to be exposed or infected, it may be appropriate to keep the group intact during the time necessary for diagnosis and treatment, for taking other control measures, or for completion of a project. Guidelines for animal care and technical person. Animal care programs require technical and husbandry support. Institutions should employ person trained in laboratory animal science or provide for both formal and on-job training to ensure effective implementation of the program. Guidelines for personal hygiene. It is essential that animal care staff maintain high standard of personal cleanliness. Facilities and supplies for meeting this obligation should be provided with appropriate personal protective equipment like showers, change of uniforms, footwears, etc. Clothing suitable for use in the animal facility should be supplied and laundered in institution. A commercial laundering service is acceptable in many situations. However, institutional facilities should be used to decontaminate clothing exposed to potential hazardous microbiological agents or toxic substances. It is acceptable to use disposable gloves, masks, head covers, coats, coveralls, and shoe covers. Personnel should change clothing as often as necessary to maintain personal hygiene. Outer garments worn in the animal rooms should not be worn outside in animal facility. Washing and showering facilities appropriate to the program should be made available. Personnel should not be permitted to eat, drink, smoke, or apply cosmetics and perfumes in animal rooms. They should finish the work with animals as early as possible and sit somewhere else outside or not in the animal rooms or areas. Separate area or room should be made available for this purpose. Guidelines for animal experimentation involving hazardous agents. Institutions should have policies governing experimentation with hazardous agents. Institutional Biosafety Committee, whose members are knowledgeable about hazardous agents, are in place in most of the higher level education, research institutes, and in many pharmaceutical industries for taking care of safety issues. This committee shall also examine the proposal on animal experiments involving hazardous agents in addition to its existing functions. Since the use of animal in such studies requires special consideration, the procedures and facility to be used must be reviewed by both Institutional Biosafety Committee and Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. Disposing of tissues and fluid from such used animals must also be appropriately governed as per the rules and regulations or practices laid by institution or biosafety regulation. Guidelines for multiple surgical procedures on single animal. Multiple surgical procedures on single animal for any testing or experiments are not to be practiced unless specified in protocol only approved by IAEC. Individual animals should not be used in more than one experiment, either in the same or different project without the express approval of IAEC. However, it is noted that appropriate reuse of animal may reduce the total number of animals used in a project, result in better design of experiments, and reduce stress or avoid pain to additional animals. Animals that are used in more than one experiment should be permitted to recover fully from the first experiment before the subsequent experiment is performed. Certification of attending veterinary person is however required before subjecting animal to the second experiment. No animals should be used for experimentation for more than 3 years unless adequate justification is provided. Guidelines for physical restraint. Brief physical restraint of animals for examination, collection of sample, and a variety of other clinical and experimental manipulations can be accomplished manually or with devices of suitable size and design for animal being held and operated properly to minimize stress and avoid injury to the animal. Prolonged restraint of any animal, including the chairing of non human primates, should be avoided unless essential to the project objective. Less restrictive systems such as tether system or pole or collar system should be used when compatible with research projects or objective. Following points should be considered during handling and restraining of animals. Animals should be handled by competent individual trained in methods that cause minimal distress and injury. The use of restraint device is sometimes essential for the welfare of animal and safety of handler. Restraint device should be used to minimum extent for the minimum period of time required to accomplish the purpose of experiment and be appropriate for the animal. Tranquilizers or anesthetics may initially be used to aid restraint, but they may prolong recovery from the procedure. When these agents have been used, recovery of animals should be closely monitored. These are the images of physical restraints of animals. Guidelines for use of restraint equipments. Restraint devices cannot be used simply as a convenience in handling or managing animals. The period of restraint should be minimum required to accomplish the research objective. Animals to be placed in restraint device should be given appropriate training to adapt to the equipment prior to initiation of the experimentation. Provision should be made for observation of animal at appropriate intervals. Veterinary care should be provided if symptoms of illness are associated with restraint. The presence of illness or severe behavioral changes should be dealt with by a temporary or permanent removal of the animal from restraint related protocol. Guidelines for location of animal facilities to laboratories. Good animal husbandry and human comfort and health protection require physical separation of animal facilities from personal areas such as offices, break rooms, training and education room. Laboratory animals are very sensitive to their living conditions. It is important that they shall be housed in an isolated building that is located far away from human habitation as possible and not exposed to dust, smoke, noise, wild rodents, insects and birds. The buildings, cages and environment of animal room are major factor which affect the quality of animals. The separation can be accomplished by having the animal quarters in separate building, wing, floor or room. Careful planning should make it possible to place animal housing areas adjacent to or near laboratories but separated from them by barriers such as entry locks, corridors or floors. While planning an animal facility, the space should be well divided into various parts to perform various activities. Animal room should occupy about 50 to 60% of total constructed area and the remaining area should be utilized for services such as stores, washing, office and staff, machine rooms, quarantine and corridor. The environment of animal room, that is macro environment, and the environment of animal cage, which is micro environment, are factors on which the production and experimental efficiency of the animal depends. Since animals are very sensitive to environmental changes, sharp fluctuations in temperature, humidity, light, sun, and ventilation should be avoided. Annexure 3 gives the guideline for minimum floor area that is recommended for laboratory animals such as mouse, rat, hamster, guinea pig, rabbit, etc. So recommended floor area per animal depends upon the weight of animal, and so also the cage size will also depend. So annexure 3C is the guideline for housing of rats. Annexure 3D is the floor area for hamster, gerbils, messtoms, cotton rats, etc. And 3E is minimum floor area and height of cages recommended for monkeys. 3F is recommended space area for cats, dogs and birds. 3G is recommended space area for farm animals like sheep, goat, swine, cat, buffalo, horses, ponies. Thank you.